Frenchie's Art Gallery, located on historic Oak Street beside the Maple Leaf Bar. With over 3,000 square feet of space, it features a large gallery front room and Frenchie's personal art studio. Frenchie's Art Gallery is also connected to the Maple Leaf Courtyard, which is ideal for the New Orleans night scene. Frenchie's Art Gallery, 8314 Oak Street. Yeah, you're right.
Located at 109 Wall Boulevard in Gretna, Uniforms by Logo Express provides school uniforms, medical wear, hospitality wear, safety and industrial wear, and so much more. We offer a number of locations on both sides of the river. 2 in Chantilly, 1 in Woodmere, and our main store located in Gretna. Uniforms by Logo Express. Your brand starts here.
The owners of the Delachaise Wine Bar on St. Charles Avenue have opened up their newest creation uptown on Maple Street called Chez Delachaise, a new local wine bistro featuring a larger menu of small and large plates, a brighter atmosphere, and full table service. Additionally, patrons can enjoy a large patio out front as well as an extensive wine list offering selections from around the world. It's Chez Delachaise, 7708 Maple Street between Carrollton and Broadway.
Here's the bottom line. Well, it's funny that you say that. Let me tell you. Good evening, New Orleans, and welcome to Primetime Sports with Scott Alexander. I cannot wait for this show today. We have a current Saint, a legendary musician, and we also have a guy that's going to fill you in on all the things happening in fantasy football and talking about the Saints and beyond. Hey, speaking of the Saints, well, it was a big weekend, 50th anniversary. The likes of Archie Manning, Ricky Jackson, Deuce McAllister, Morton Anderson, all the greats were aligned. The 50 greatest were honored at halftime of this game. And unfortunately, well, the Saints matchup, it was supposed to be a big passing matchup with the Lions. Drew Brees versus, obviously, Matthew Stafford. 2 guys, one of only 4 players that have thrown for 5,000 yards. Well, when did Matthew Stafford start looking like Steve Young running the football? I got to tell you, I was shocked at the way he got away and started running. It's a different Matthew Stafford than I remember. But the touchdown to Golden Tate late in the game when the Saints had cut it to 6 was all too familiar because you remember a couple of years ago, Saints playoff hopes were dashed when Golden Tate got a long touchdown. Hopefully, these are on life support and aren't completely over. I think the Saints still have a shot, but they're going to need a little help. Hey, LSU versus Louisville in the Citrus Bowl. They're going to get a big dose of a guy named Lamar Jackson. He is surely going to be the Heisman Trophy winner, one of the most athletic players I have ever seen in my entire life, and I mean that. It's going to be a tall task. Should be fun. Who doesn't want to beat up on Bobby Petrino, though? He is the coach we all love to hate. Look at that sneer. That's Bobby, who hopefully will put that sneer back on his face on New Year's Day. Hey, also, Leonard Fournette announced he was going to go pro. That was a formality, and congratulations to Leonard for that. He will play in the game. As far as the college football playoffs, Bama, Jalen Hurts, can anybody beat this team? I mean, they look like they are unbeatable, but the teams that have the best shot will be playing each other, Clemson and Ohio State. And then, of course, Washington will open up with Bama, and hopefully they can get by for their sake. And then Penn State is the one team that got left out. And I feel bad for them, but they're only 4 in. I think they took the best 4. James Franklin had a remarkable year for the Nittany Lions. Hey, the Pelicans, Heartbreak City, double overtime loss last night. 2 3-pointers in regulation and overtime kept going, and they ended up losing that one. Hey, Klay Thompson, how about this? 60 points for Klay Thompson last night. That is rare for any guard to do it. Big Show, Eric Harris, Big Sam from Big Sam's Funky Nation, and Nick Guarisco. Coming up next on Primetime Sports. welcome back, Crescent City. And that was a great tune. So Big Sam from Big Sam's Funky Nation. I told you he was coming, and I can't wait. We're going to interview him next, and then at the end we're going to give you all your information from Nick Guarisco. But my first guest, was a guy that I got to know right when he signed with the New Orleans Saints in February. I did a story on him then. I did another story during rookie camp, another one in mini camp, and then he was a household name because he did it on his own. His name is Erik Harris. You may know him. He is the safety for the New Orleans Saints by way of Canada. And he's got a great story to tell. Obviously, if you follow the Saints closely, you know that he is good friends with Delvin Breaux, was his teammate with the Hamilton Tiger Cats in Canada for 2 years. And Delvin gave a little nudge to Sean Payton and said, hey, you got to get this guy down here. He's going to be making tackles all day long. And that's what he was doing before he got hurt with an ACL injury right after the bye week. Remember, they had just beaten the Chargers, and then he was practicing, and he got hurt. So he's out for the season, but he'll be back next season. I cannot wait. But here he is, my man Erik Harris. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
Well, we've had Delvin Breaux on. We've had Michael Maudie. We've had Lolito, all current Saints, and a ton of ex-Saints Hall of Famers. But the first one during the season, I'm so glad you could make it, my man.
Thank you. I mean, we've been talking about coming in here for a while now, so I'm just glad we can get this set up. And
I want to hear the story because I think people out there, I know you a little bit, but I mean, I was talking off camera with you, and I'm learning more and more about it. You went to Cal, but not the Cal everybody thinks of in California. Although you were born in the state of California, you kind of grew up mostly in Pennsylvania, so you went to California University of Pennsylvania, correct?
Right. So coming out of high school, I went to California University of Pennsylvania. I think there's like one traffic light in the whole town.
What town is it, bud? Is it
California?
It's California,
yeah.
Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
All right.
It's like south of Pittsburgh.
All right.
So so coming out of college or coming out of high school, I went out there about 4 hours away from home, and Division II. Everybody always asks like, why'd you go to Division II? Well, in high school. I wasn't a knucklehead or anything like that, but kind of messed up with my grades and stuff and couldn't qualify
You're not the first, right?
For a big school.
So you went there, but you've made a name for yourself, and they always say that, hey, they'll find you wherever you are, right? And that's obviously true in your case. But I have to tell the story about here before we get into your Canada career and your college career, because it's interesting because Delvin Breaux came in as a long shot himself. I mean, locals from New Orleans remember he was a high school hero, fantastic, but he had the broken neck, as we all know, and didn't play for 6 years and kind of worked his way up, and he signed with the Saints pretty much the same time you did the year before.
Right.
And then all of a sudden this guy becomes not just making the team, he becomes a starter, and then you're hearing from other teammates that this guy is one of the best in the NFL at what he does. So his recommendation all of a sudden becomes a little more powerful, Sean Payton, when he talks about you. So you take it from there and tell us how this went.
Okay, so we played for 2 years up in Hamilton,
right.
Became real close, and he had left, and we always talked about him coming down to the NFL and that he was going to be a star down here. So, like you said, he did that, and I played in my last year up in Hamilton, and then I was getting any calls or any workouts like that during my off season when he had probably about 12, 15 workouts,
Like January you're talking about?
Yeah,
right, okay.
Yeah, absolutely, and so he was like, okay, I'm going to talk to Coach. So next thing you know, he hangs up, calls me back a little bit later and said, hey, be ready for a workout February 2nd, this and that. And then we kind of went from there, flew down here February 1st, worked out on the 2nd. He showed up at the workout, and I was a little more nervous for him to be there,
right.
Because that's a big deal for somebody to go out of their way and put their reputation on the line for somebody else. So that meant a lot for me and for me to perform and just make him look good, Well,
what was it like meeting Sean Payton? I mean, you got signed that very day. I mean, you came to the workout. Did you have any idea you might get signed? Talk about that whole process of meeting a Super Bowl winning coach and being your first NFL camp, I'm imagining, or at least a practice place. Talk about that.
Well, it all happened so fast, and you didn't really have time to think about it. I remember him approaching me after my workout or whatever, so we exchanged a few words and talked about a few things, and kind of just got to know me briefly, like character-wise, and it wasn't really until I was on the plane and I just started thinking about everything. Everything was just hitting me about how I met Coach Payton, how I just worked out for the Saints, how I just signed a contract, because I was in the security line and I was told my wife, I'm like, yeah, I signed a contract, and she was like, you're kidding, right? Because I was all calm about it. I'm like, no, like I signed, but I wasn't trying to be all loud about it.
Sure,
you know. So,
sure. Well, what was the contract? Because it's obviously not a guarantee to make the team.
Right.
But what was the first contract they gave you? What did it promise you at least?
A 3-year deal. It was a 3-year deal.
So you got a 3-year deal.
Like a regular rookie contract. Yep, 3-year deal. Yep.
Oh, I mean, off the bat?
Yeah.
That's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
All right, coming from Hamilton, you played linebacker. Talk about that transition, being a linebacker, and obviously from all accounts, because I did a lot of research on you before I did my first story back in February. Tenacious, ferocious, all these words I kept hearing. Never gives up on a play. Talk about that, and then coming to New Orleans and transitioning to safety.
Yeah, so linebacker is just a little different. Obviously, you're down in the box a little bit more. You got to know your run fits and stuff like that. But also, I covered a lot as well, so you got to have different drops. And so transitioning from to here, it was just a little different, you know. I would say when I took a curl flat drop, I would take more of a flatter drop because the field's wider, you know. To here, you have to get more depth to get into the curl
wider
area.
And longer in Canada, right?
Exactly.
Right, yeah.
So it was just a little bit muscle memory type stuff, you know, just filling out the field. And, you know, we have another player as well up in Canada, so it's a little different. You have 12 people in the field.
12 on 12.
Yep.
Well, they say if you can play linebacker and safety very well at CFL, you can do it in the NFL because of all the extra space. Mm-hmm. What have you learned about NFL playing safety and then playing with some of the veterans that you've been able to learn from? I mean, Roman Harper, Kenny Vaccaro, who plays your position. Kind of explain that. And also, what's the difference between the kind of safeties, pre-safety and strong safety? Because I think a lot of average fans, you know that sometimes Harper's on the line, sometimes the safeties are getting beat, but what are the different assignments? So kind of explain the whole gamut of that.
Okay, well, first and foremost, the veteran guys in our secondary, Kenny, Harper, Bird, all those guys, great leaders, great guys to learn from game and off the field stuff. But the difference, I would say, it all depends on the coach, the coordinator, and how they use their safeties. You know, free safety usually sits in the post more, and he has different responsibility as far as his reads and his threats. A strong safety, like I said, he has to know his run fits better more. He has to know what gap he has when a guard pulls. He has to know he has to jump over to the A gap, stuff like that. You know, to where a free safety, he doesn't need to really know all that kind of stuff.
I'm going to tell you what, this guy right here, I won't forget, and you probably remember, the first time they had rain, I guess minicamp, they brought y'all inside, and the media actually is a little closer to y'all then when y'all are inside at the, the indoor facility. You are always chewing the ear off of any veteran that would listen to you. I mean, it was phenomenal. Cornerbacks, safeties, anybody, and you're walking off the field, you're like, hey, what was it supposed to be? Was I in the right position? You're eager to learn.
Yes, I mean that's how you become the best, you know. And I've always taken pride in being the best, or just film studying, just knowing things that's going to happen. I like to be like the leader out there. I like to tell people, hey, watch this, watch that. This is about to happen. So I'm just trying to learn, and these guys have seen it numerous of times. And I've even talked to Drew. I sat down and watched a few clips with Drew. I'm like, we just sat down and said, just tell me what you're thinking. What are you thinking? What are you thinking when you come up to the line, and what are you looking at? Is anything giving it away?
Wait, how soon did you approach Drew Brees? Because this is Drew Brees.
Oh, this was in OTAs. Yeah.
Before minicamp, even you're in OTAs talking to the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
So was he eager to help you out?
Yeah, I mean he's a great guy, you know, and I have a lot of respect for how he prepares and just the pro he is, and I constantly watch him and just see little things that he does, and he's such a competitor, and I have a lot of respect for the guy. And like I said, Drew, we got to get together, watch some film, man. So I kept joking about that for about a week or two, and then finally we sat down, and I just said, tell me what you're thinking. Like, okay, the safeties are this or that, you know, and he was just saying, I know these certain things by this look, so just idea, you know, of how I can maybe make it more difficult on a quarterback, especially a quarterback of his caliber.
It's interesting you brought that up about Brees, because I do remember I asked him specifically. By training camp, I felt like I'd known you pretty well, like through rookie, then OTAs and minicamp. So I threw out after like 3 or 4 days of practice. I said, hey, because you can ask anything. I said, how's that young guy Erik Harrison? He's like, his eyes lit up. He goes, oh, yeah, I think we found something in that kid. And now I just thought about it, because you're going up against him, okay? Let's just go to training camp, because you were a monster there. It was pretty evident that the people that I kept telling, on my websites that you were going to make the team, they were starting to believe me. They're like, oh my God, this guy is this good. But you're playing against Drew Brees every day. I mean, you got the backups as well. But what was that like?
He's the best, you know, and just going against him every day and just knowing that you have to dot every I, and cross every T with this guy. Like, you know, there's certain things just like, how do you know we were going to be in that coverage, or how did he know we were going to blitz this person, you know? And just going against this guy, you had to switch it up with him. You know?
It's not like going to L.A. where you could have gone against a rookie in golf and Case Keenum, who might be out of the NFL soon. You're going against a Hall of Famer. But the receivers, they're also great. I mean, listen, there's talk that this trio is the best in the NFL, and you point them against them. Talk about them individually and what they bring to this Saints team.
Well, you know, I mean, Mike Thomas, he's a hard worker. He came in right away, and he just worked. He works.
You two battling right there.
Exactly. He's a physical guy. He catches the ball well in traffic. I mean, you've seen it all year. Cook's very versatile, fast, you know. And he's a true competitor. He's a true pro. And, you know, and Snead, he's Mr. Clutch.
Mr. Reliable,
yeah,
huh?
Yeah.
All right. I see that you know you're married and you have kids, but I don't see the wedding ring. Is there a story behind that? I know you're a family guy. I don't think you're taking it off.
Right. No. So I told my wife, I'm like, honey, we got to talk about something, but you can't be mad. So preseason game against the Patriots, it was kind of hot. It was hot there. So I was sweating, and my gloves were just sweaty, and then so I took off my gloves, and I had my little my active athletic ring on. And took my gloves off, and next thing you know, I came down to the sideline, looked down, and my ring is gone. So
was this during the game?
During the game.
So were you looking immediately, or you focused on the game?
Oh, I'll focus on the game. I was like, I'll get another one. And pretty cool story to tell, you know. So she can't be too mad at me.
Especially since you made the team.
Yeah.
What's been the biggest struggle for you? I mean, going from where you came from, Canada, and coming over here to play football.
Biggest struggle? You just mean like learning curve, or?
Yeah, just anything. When you hear the word struggle, have you had anything that's just like, man, this is hard? Is it getting up every day? I mean, going across the lake, you know?
No, I would say the biggest struggle right now is just getting through this injury, you know?
Well, let's talk about it. You injured the ACL. It was after, like I said, the Saints got their first win against the Chargers.
Yeah.
Bye week, things are looking good. Eric Harris is playing every single play on special teams, and then this happened. So kind of take us through the injury, take us what your first thought was, and then take us through your rehab.
Well, first day back, it was a Monday. We call it a bonus day, extra day of practice. And I was on scout team giving the offense a look of Carolina's defense, and had an interception running down the sideline, you know. Wasn't even running full speed or anything, and I made a sudden juke and just felt my knee pop, and we went and I got an MRI, saw the doctor, team doctor or whatever, and he gave me the news. So, you know, I was very devastated at first, you know, because I thought.
Did you think immediately that it was that serious? I mean, you know.
I knew it was something serious. I didn't think ACL. I thought meniscus or something in that sort, which it was part meniscus as well.
But ACL takes you out. You know, when you hear ACL, you know this is a year-long thing.
Right. So, but it was kind of like a day of it, and then the next day I got surgery, and I kind of just been positive. Very positive, and just thinking each day it's a grind each day, and the grind is because the process is so slow. You know, you can only do so much, so you got to find small victories within the rehab process.
Talk about what your family coming down has meant to you, because I remember I would talk to you a lot in the locker room, and your family was still up there. And how important was it to have, you know, I think your kids are 3. You have twins, right?
Yeah.
Have them and your wife down here not long before the injury occurred.
Right. So, you know, I'm a big a man of faith, and so I just told my wife, I'm like, look how good God is to us. You know, got you guys down here. I mean, tore my ACL, but you know, could you imagine trying to get them down here with 3 kids and all that stuff? And so it was a process of getting everybody down here, but it's been great having them. You know, I was on crutches for 6 weeks, and my wife was taking care of all 4 of us.
Look how cute. Yeah. Well, I'm going to tell you, you're obviously a great family man, and you're an inspiration to us all. That just alone, the way you said it. I mean, most people are like, I can't believe this happened to me. You're thinking, the Lord for bringing, your family there and being there with you. Hey, I have a great gift certificate for you, a great restaurant, and I know you live across the lake. It's right over. You can go. It's right in Metairie. You can pop over there. And I got a Saints ball for you to sign. This is a tradition. You got Delvin signed one of these, but that one's full. So we got another one for you right here. And I just can't thank you enough. And I know the whole city of New Orleans is rooting for you.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, you're one of these guys that's really easy to be a fan of. So I thank you for that, Erik. Erik Harris, safety, special teams demon. I mean, he was making plays all over the field in preseason and in the first 4 games. Literally, he was on every special teams unit, and they have not quite been the same since. And I mean that. Hey, coming up next, this is like, I tell you, sometimes it's a sports show, and a lot of times it is, but it's also an entertainment show at times, and that's what we're going to do next. I'm going to have Big Sam from Big Sam's Funky Nation. He used to be in Dirty Dozen Brass Band. I got to know him through some friends of mine that are in a band called Better Than Ezra. I went to college with them, and so they would have him perform with him a lot. So I became a fan after the first time I saw him playing with them. Then I've seen him in other venues as well, and he's going to be coming up next talking music and maybe some other stuff as well, right here on Primetime Sports. Stay tuned.
The mark of Legacy Kitchen is simple. We offer numerous dishes like chicken enchilada soup, prime filet and loaded baked potato, baby back ribs, and so much more. At Legacy Kitchen, we serve American fare, crafted cocktails, and we offer a great selection of wines by the glass. Metairie at Betts and Martin Berman, and in the Warehouse District at Chapatulas and Girard.
I burned for health.
For never being big again.
I burned for my family.
For my 10th high school reunion.
For swimsuit season. I burned for myself.
Orange Theory Fitness. Keep burning.
Crescent City Steakhouse, a true neighborhood restaurant operated by the Vojkovic family since 1934, is the oldest steakhouse in the city of New Orleans. Serving only hand-cut, prime-aged, corn-fed beef for over 80 years, Crescent City Steakhouse has become a dining destination for both die-hard locals and adventurous travelers who seek traditional, timeless New Orleans cuisine. Crescent City Steakhouse, 1001 North Broad, on the corner of St. Philip, in the heart of New Orleans. Welcome back, Crescent City, and I told you, this is not just a sports show, it's sports and entertainment. I love having Frenchie the artist. Dickie Brennan was on a couple weeks ago. So many musicians. If you've been watching since the beginning, we've had several, but one guy that I've been excited about since I heard he was coming on about 6 weeks ago, and I've been teasing literally every week that he was going to be on our show, and here he is. His name is Big Sam from Big Sam's Funky Nation. Hey, as a young teenager, he started with the Dirty Dozen Brass Band, played with them for a few years. He's been all over the world. He's played with guys like Elvis Costello, Alan Toussaint. He played with so much before his death, but he has made a name for his own, and I'm going to say this. I first heard of him through my good friends in Better Than Ezra, and ever since then, anytime Big Sam or Big Sam's Funky Nation is in a lineup, I am there, and I mean that. Here he is.
What's that, baby?
I couldn't be more excited to have you on the show.
Well, thanks for having me, man. Appreciate
Big
it,
Sam,
baby.
New Orleans born and bred. First of all, you got the Pelicans hat on.
All day,
represent.
Man. I got to represent the hometown.
Do you get to games?
Yeah, I'm so busy, man. I haven't made it to a game this season yet, but I'm working on it.
Yeah, but you know what? We're New Orleanians.
Yeah.
We support our own. I mean, you grew up with the Saints. I mean, you have an earliest Saints memory for me?
Ooh, Lord, nope. Nah, man, we just always rooted for the Saints. Even when we had the brown paper bags over our heads, we're still there supporting them and rooting for our home team. It was just a good time. I remember back in the day, my grandmother actually used to stay across the street from Pat Swillen's mom.
Oh wow!
So he used to come by all the time, and he was a cool cat too. So just being in New Orleans, it's a beautiful thing. Everybody's cool and get along. So yeah.
Pat's royalty, man.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you say, hey, Mom, anytime Pat comes by, give me a call.
Right.
Hey, so anyway, as far as growing up in New Orleans, obviously the roots of music down here.
Oh yeah.
What's your earliest influence, and tell us how you got this thing started?
Man, my earliest influence, I'll say, was the Dirty Dozen Brass Band. Of course, I started playing when I was in middle school. But it wasn't until I was like 15 years old when Mom bought me a Dirty Dozen Brass Band album called Ears to the Wall. And that was their first funk album where they had like a drum set and guitar and keys and everything. And I was like, that's what really like turned me on to music. And I was like, oh man, I want to play with this band. I have my own group like it. And 4 years later, I got the opportunity, and I started playing with the Dirty Dozen Brass Band at the age of 19. You know?
Kind of a crazy story.
Yeah.
I mean, I told you before the show, I told you E.T. has been on the show a couple times, performing, and even an interview like yourself.
Yeah.
And you just lit up. You said, I know E.T.
Yeah, man. He's like, yeah, dude, cool, man. So it was weird, man. His daughter, Stacey Towns, all of us went to church together, and her and her mom was like, you know, they needed a new trombone player, and they were like, you know, Daddy, you know, you need a trombone player. Call Sam. He can play. And even going back before that, you know, she had a birthday party when she turned 16. I was there hanging out. She had all kind of albums in her room, like John Coltrane, Charlie Parker, Dizzy Gillespie, everybody.
The greats.
All the greats, man. Oh, you into jazz? She said, no, that's my dad's. And I was like, oh, cool. And I was like, who is he? She's like, Ephraim Towns. I was like, Ephraim Towns. Said, yeah, he played Dirty Dozen. I said, where is he? Is he here? So I kind of ditched the party and talked to him the whole time. I was like, man, if you ever need a trombone player, you know, give me a call. And I was actually performing at Jazzland at the time. They had just opened, and I was playing there like every day, probably like 8 hours a day. I was.
And how old would you be at that point?
I was 18.
18, right?
18, going on 19, or I had just turned 19. And he called me like while I was working. Was like, hey, dude, Sam, it's E.T., man. What's happening? I said, what's happening, bro? He said, hey, you ready to go on the road? I said, yeah. Like, what's happening? And he said, all right, cool, we leave tomorrow. I said, wait, tomorrow? I said, all right. I said, well
that's E.T.
You're right.
That is E.T., boy.
And I was like, how long are we going for? He said, 3 months. I said, well, look, man, let me call.
I'm leaving tomorrow for 3 months.
Right. I said, well, let me call my mom first and make sure it's okay. But yeah, man, it's been great playing with those cats. And even in high school, you know, I'm a co-founder of the Stooges Brass Band too. So myself, along with Walter Wood and Ramsey, Andrew Bayham, a bunch of us, man, we started that group. So I went from like the Stooges Brass Band, and I also attended NOCA too. So went from like the Stooges Brass Band, the Soul Rebels, doing like my own like bebop gigs in clubs. Then I went on to Dirty Dozen. You know, of course, we did the whole widespread panic thing, the government build.
Yes.
Played with so many people, man.
I've seen you with both of them, by the way. I've been I don't want to even admit how many panic shows I've been to. It's been a lot.
Good. Yeah, you're right.
But I have seen you. You're on a lot of stages, so you have a lot of different influences, and your music shows that because funk is what it's about.
That's what it's about. That's what my heart is, man.
But tell me about your whole Sam's Funky Nation and what that brings.
Yeah, Big Sam's Funky Nation, man. And what it brings is like all of my influences together, you know. So you have your Alan Toussaint, and you have your Elvis Costello, and you have your P-Funk, and your Morris Day in the Town, the Gap Band.
What time?
And of course, exactly. You know, exactly. And it's just that, you know, having all of those different influences and coming from New Orleans, so you got Dirty Dozen Brass Band, you got the Meters, the Neville Brothers, you know, and the whole brass band culture of New Orleans, you know, even like the Wild Making Noise with Big Chief Bo Dallas, man, you know, rest his soul, you know, it's just something about New Orleans and the flavor that we have that other, you know, places can't bring. We have that extra flavor, you dig? You
encompass New Orleans. I mean, I'm sitting here listening to not just your influences, the way you talk, your mannerisms, your love of your city.
Oh, yeah.
You are New Orleans.
Man. Yeah, you're right, man, all day.
And we have some incestuous kind of relationships here because Stephen Klein, your manager, and I went to high school together.
Nice.
Great guy. I've known him forever. Great management guy that runs bands and helps him out. But also, better than Ezra, these guys I went to college with. I mean,
awesome,
I'm talking 3 of those guys I were really close with in college.
Yeah.
And I got to know the drummer, the recent drummer lately. But point being is, I saw you up there. Talk about how you know them and where playing with bands like this has taken you.
Man, Better Than Ezra's awesome, man. They're awesome. They years ago, I don't want to say how many, maybe about 8 years ago or so, they called and they wanted Funky Nation to go on a tour and open up for them. So I want to say we went on like a 3-month tour, and we opened for them for those 3 months. That's why we have so many of their fans now, you know. I mean, we went all over the place.
Trust me.
Oh man, I love them. I love everybody back too, you know. And we just had a good time with those cats, and we just developed this bond, man. So then eventually we started getting up on stage and jamming with them, and then from there, I mean, the rest is history. We've been playing like every year, like for a lot of big events every year. So, you know, we're like family now, you know. Especially Kevin has like Pilgrimage going on now too, along with other producers.
Right outside Nashville.
Right outside of Nashville, and that's an awesome
Pilgrimage
festival.
is a 2-year festival right now.
Yep. And if you don't know about it, you want to get on it because that, I mean, that's where it's
I was supposed to be this year, but my off date on my college football schedule got moved. It was supposed to be that weekend.
Right.
But here's the other thing Kevin said about you. I haven't told you this yet.
Yeah.
Because I texted him last night. I said, hey, give me some interesting stuff. He goes, let me just be honest with you, Scott. And I don't want you to sound like that I'm just saying this because she's on your show. But I've been on stage with many musicians. Kevin's been around for 25 years.
Yeah, Kevin's one of the greats, man.
And this is what he said. Honestly, I'm in awe when he's on my stage or I'm with him. I come on because he's flat out said he's the most talented musician I've ever been on stage with. Period. And that's a true statement.
Oh, thank you. I can't even. You got me blushing up here, man.
And I have chills because I know Kevin's not BSing. You know what I mean?
Right now, Kevin. He's a real dude. You know what I'm saying? So thank you very much. I appreciate that.
right.
That's what's up.
As far as what you're doing now, you have a big event this weekend. It's a Christmas thing that I can't wait. I'm keeping my Friday open, but tell us about it.
Thanks. Yeah, we'll have a Christmas show coming up at Tipitina's this Friday night, December 9th. Big Sam's Funk Nation. I have a bunch of friends coming out as well. We're going to do some Christmas songs. We're going to still give you that Funky Nation funk, and which we call Noladelic funk,
What kind of funk?
Noladelic.
I like it. All
you're right. So come on out and have a good time. Like I tell people, if you come into one of our shows, don't think you're going to sit down and drink wine.
No.
Nah, it's a get up on your feet, sweaty dance party type event. So even, we go some places and, people are like, well, look, Sam, they have like 70-year-old, white people out here, and they don't want to, they might not want to dance. I said, look, y'all act like people wasn't young once before. Like, people want to dance and have a good time. Don't treat people like all gentle because they're older. Man, come on, just bring the funk, and they're gonna get up and dance. And sure enough, everywhere we go, we get the same response. People love us. No matter what the age is, from little kids to the elderly, man, everybody get up and have a good time.
You have that joie de vivre, that spirit about you. I can see that. You actually grew up around Tipitina's. I mean, you were truly uptown New Orleans. Tipitina's is right on Magazine and Tchoupitoulas. It's maybe the most legendary music place here. I mean, there's plenty of them, but that's certainly one of them. You grew up in the mix.
I grew up right on Laurel Street in 12th Ward, So, like Laurel and General Taylor. So that's right down the street from Tip. So yeah, man, we used to have some of the uptown second lines like pass up in front of the house, but I wasn't even into like music at that time yet. I had no idea that I would be a musician.
I used to take my bike every weekend, literally for like 8 hours a day to the basketball court on Napoleon and Magazine.
Oh yeah,
right by the police.
That's the real court right there, man.
You have to come
right by the police station.
Right by there you go. Where the news station. But no, I say new. That's how long ago.
No,
it's been there for a while. But it was down Magazine.
Hey, it was there when I was a kid.
Right. What's in the future for you, man? You played with so many people. Who out there would you love to play with?
Oh man, I mean,
who's some of these people that are still alive? You're like, man, if I got an opportunity, I want to be on stage.
Man, right now, we got a chance to open for like Mars Day in the Time,
How great.
So, man, it was awesome, man. And, our shows are very similar because he's a huge inspiration to me, and a huge influence on my music. So, after we did his show, like, we had so many of his fans start like following us on social media. It was like the largest. We had like 500 new fans.
I've seen him back in the day.
Yeah.
About 8 times. And I'm going to tell you, Cameo. At one show, Dad's Band, Morris Day, we had Kool and the Gang.
Yeah.
We had Rick James was there.
Ooh.
This was a killer show, but they took it, man.
And they still got
Prince
it, man.
Even?
Prince, man.
Yeah.
All of them, they still got it. Well, Prince, Prince is speaking from the dead right now. He's from the grave. He's still coming out with new music, He has so many songs in his vault, and that's why I ended up getting like Tidal Music, because they have like all of his catalog. iTunes don't have everything, so I went to Tidal and they have like Prince's like entire catalog, songs I never even heard.
Your
of.
influences are very vast, and widespread.
Yeah, even when I tell people, like, man, like I love like Pantera and Metallica and stuff, they're like, oh my God, like really? I'm like, yeah, man.
Some guttural music.
Yeah, I love it. I got to play with Pearl Jam this past Jazz Fest.
How was that?
It was awesome.
Oh wait! I was there on that stage, and they came. That's right. And I was at that show as well. Hey, here's a couple things I want to do. I want you to jam for us real quick, if you don't mind.
Oh,
and I've got a gift certificate to a wonderful wine bistro that's uptown. I know you're gonna love them. And also, we're gonna sign the Saints ball. But take us to break with some stuff. Funky Nation, you better check this show out this Friday. But first, I want to get you to sign the Big Saints ball. Thank you so much, Big Sam,
anytime, man.
for coming on the show. This is a true treat for me. I love all my guests, but sometimes when you get a little horn in your hand, I might love you a little more. All right, baby. That's Big Sam. Friday, 9 o'clock, Tipitina's. It's a Christmas jam. And by the way, Robin Barnes.
Oh, yeah, man. Robin's sweet,
not to be confused with Ricky Williams' wife.
Right.
Because I know her pretty well. She grew up in New Orleans.
Oh, yeah.
But Robin Barnes, great musician.
Yeah, thanks
so much, man.
Anytime.
I appreciate you more than you know.
Hey, thanks, man.
Hey, coming up, I know fantasy football, there's so many out there. I was going to have Jerry V on the show. We were going to talk a bunch of stuff. I said, I'm going to save Jerry V for next week. And I also got Jennifer Hale coming next week. I also got a couple nice surprises for you, including another restaurateur coming next week. But next, get your pens out because I know playoffs start this week for fantasy football. I know 90% of y'all play it, so get ready. I got the guy, Nick Guarisco, who's going to give you some tips on what to do. Remember I had him on a couple months ago. I promised you to have him back before the playoffs. Well, that is now. He's coming up next. We're going to talk some Saints and some LSU. And how about the national landscape picture? Bama, can anybody beat them? Clemson's going to get an opportunity if they win against Ohio State. And obviously Washington will get first dibs. We'll see. We're coming back right here. That was Big Sam. Nick Guarisco next right here on Primetime Sports. Well, you heard when the Saints go marching in earlier from Big Sam, but that was a Christmas song called This Christmas. And you're going to hear that this weekend. Like I told you, Tipitina's Friday night, 9 o'clock. It is the Christmas Jam. Check it out, Big Sam's Funky Nation, featuring Robin Barnes as well. It's going to be fun. Hey, we've had a current Saint. We've had a music legend on this show. Now we're going to get information. I told you, I teased earlier, we're going to talk about fantasy football. Playoffs are coming up. A bunch of you were asking for Nick Guarisco to come back. I had him on during the regular season a couple months ago. Now the playoffs for most people start this week. It's week 14, and that's when they usually start. Some start week 15. But regardless, you're going to need to know to put in your lineup maybe some sleepers, maybe some ideas that you didn't know about, and maybe some guys that you're starting that might have tougher opportunities against their opponents you might be wary of. So we'll get to all that in a second, but I want to talk Saints with my next guest, Nick Guarisco. He has been with Big Easy Sports Talk. That is his website. It's phenomenal. If you're getting ready for your draft, it's great. But he knows much more than fantasy. He knows the team. So we're going to cover some college stuff, the college football playoff, and we're going to talk about the Saints and their predicament as well. Welcome to the show, my friend. Welcome back to the show, I should say.
Thank you.
Nick Guarisco. All right, let's get right to it. We're going to hold off on fantasy for a second because I know everybody's itching at the bit. Almost everybody I know plays fantasy, but I want to talk about the Saints in general. This is an ebb and flow team like none other. I mean, they started 0-3, then they got your hopes up. Of course, they always do. They get to 4-4, then they lose 2, then they win 1 convincingly, and then you think, okay, 5-6, their schedule is fairly favorable, but they get, I'm not going to say blown out because they had an opportunity to win. They were only down 6 with 11 and a half minutes to go on a 3rd and long, and they got the thing from Golden Tate, and they just kind of took the wind out of the sail. But what is wrong with this team? Every time you think that they're going to give you hope, they just pull it right back like Godfather 3.
Right. The team has been very inconsistent this season, Scott. And I think you said it perfectly when you said that usually when the Saints have looked so great and all the fans get behind them again, everything's ready to go, usually that's when they kind of have a letdown game. And 2 of those letdown games against the Raiders, against the Broncos have come down to, even against the Giants, have come down to like the last play of the game. The Saints have not finished well this season. There have been a number of games that have really come down to like the final minute of the game where the Saints have been on the losing side.
Well, let me say this. The Falcons game was the only one that they weren't really in, even though they
Right.
did have an opportunity late before. Obviously, Debo Jones got the interception for a touchdown. Well, this was the one I kept tweeting. I was in the press box, and I kept tweeting, listless, sluggish, lethargic. They just look that way.
Right.
And when the game is so big, why is that?
They showed up flat in the game, and it was weird being in the Superdome, of course. But one thing to consider is that the Lions are actually a pretty good football team this year. They're 8-4 now. They're at the top of the NFC North. Nobody really expected that. They've beaten a couple of good teams this year, so that could be one reason for it. The other reason could be, it's the NFL. The Saints might have been looking ahead to these divisional games that we have against Tampa Bay. We have 2 games against them, and we have the Falcons later in the season, so they might have been just kind of looking ahead to the end of the schedule.
Golden Tate did it to us 2 years ago.
He did it again.
In a very similar game that they were kind of got back into it.
Right.
They were trying to make the playoffs. They were down, I think, 13 in that game or whatever, and he got it was a 3rd and long, same as this one.
Right. It was a quick short pass.
Quick
and then
short
just
pass
broke a
and
tackle
for 80 yards, and then stuck the dagger in the Saints' playoff hopes. Because the Falcons lost today, and by the way, they lost to the same team at home Monday night, the Lions, when they were trying to get into the playoffs again. And for the 3rd time, they might have stuck the dagger in them. This time, Tate gets open wide on 3rd and 10. The Saints, they cut it to 6. It looked like they were right there. 12 minutes left in the game. They're going to do it, and he's wide open. There was a breakdown in the secondary. How do these things keep happening, or is this just a symptom of being a Saints fan?
I think that it's the first full year in Dennis Allen's system, so that's one thing that everyone really considers. And the Saints have also had a lot of injuries on the defensive side of the ball. They're one of the more injured teams on that side of the ball than any team almost, I would say, with the exception of a few. The other thing is that the Lions defense has been a lot better lately, and just I think you said it best when they just showed up flat, and there was a bunch of different things that could have happened. We had a couple drop passes, but a couple misassignments, but there's one thing that keeps standing out to me, and that is Terron Armstead's absence in the games that he's missed. He's missed 6 games this year. That's half the season.
Right.
In the games that Terron Armstead has missed, and we talk a lot about the Saints' home and road splits and how much better Drew Brees is at home. But in the games that Terron Armstead's missed, Drew Brees' touchdown-interception ratio 14-10. In the games that Terron Armstead's played, the 6 games, so same sample size, 12-1. 12 touchdowns, 1 interception.
So he's not rushing the ball as much, and maybe, get that little extra second or half second counts. Terron Armstead, that's a huge, I think he's one of the best, if not the best, left tackle in the game.
Right. He's definitely one of the best pass protectors in the game.
Right.
And I think Brees just kind of has a tendency, as you can see by the stat with 10 interceptions, he has a tendency to maybe kind of force passes a little bit when he's kind of feeling the heat, especially when we've been trailing in these games like Detroit. We saw it a couple seasons ago when the offensive line wasn't playing up to par, and that's when the Saints fans really started talking about Drew Brees' regression, all overreacting pretty much. But Drew Brees does it for all of he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league, one of the best players in the league. But for all his strengths, he does have a tendency to force some passes when we're trailing because he figures he needs to do it all himself. Terron Armstead's absence has been really big for the Saints, so I'm hoping that he can get healthy, and that would be significant for the stretch run. These are 4 winnable games, like you mentioned earlier.
Well,
but
that's what I was going to say. It's in front of you still because, Vaccaro was adamant. He goes, listen, we hate losing, but the Falcons lost, and that's the bottom line.
Right.
They play Tampa twice. Tampa's 7-5. The Falcons are 7-5. The Saints are 5-7. So if you have a Falcons loss, and then you beat Tampa twice and the Falcons yourself, well, that's 3 of the games. Also, you have to go on the road. Your back's against the wall, and you still do not control your own destiny anymore. But the fact is, it's possible. Should we even give our fans a glimmer of hope? Because I'm half glass full. I always will. But will you?
There's always a glimmer of hope when you do have Drew Brees, because if you were able to make the playoffs, you can really beat anybody. Personally, in my opinion, I think the Dallas Cowboys and the Seahawks are just way above the rest of the NFC right now. I think the AFC is a little more wide open.
The Lions are far behind.
But not in terms of record, but just in terms of talent.
Right.
I think that's pretty much. But the Saints getting there to the playoffs, if you get there, everyone has a chance if you have Drew Brees. And like you said, it's actually beneficial that we haven't played Tampa Bay yet, because we need to play these games, because two head-to-head games means they can get a loss while we get a win in the same week. And the Falcons, they do kind of have an easy schedule going forward, which is unfortunate. We would have to hope for a break there. But you just never really know. And also, you haven't mentioned the wild card possibility yet.
Yeah.
Teams like Washington, Green Bay, and Minnesota, they could also lose. If we knock out Tampa Bay, there's a wild card possibility.
Giants are schizophrenic. They already got their first loss after so many wins in a row, and they have been known to be able to drop them too. There's still hope. Let's get on to what everybody wants to hear from you. Fantasy football. This is our New Orleans guy, period. I'll put him up against any of the national guys out there. I mean that if you read his stuff on Big Easy Sports Talk, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But playoffs are here, and most of us are in more than one league. I know you're in several. I share a league with a couple people, and I'm in my own. But I barely got in a couple leagues. I'm in the playoffs, and I got one team that's rolling. But I'm not going to talk about my team. Nobody cares. I'm not even talking about your team. I'm going to talk about some guys out there that you think have favorable matchups and some that don't, and then some sleepers that might be available, and depending on the size of your league. So let's start with the Saints real quick. One guy that you've told me, his name's Mark Ingram, who has been schizophrenic. I sat him because I thought he was concussed last week, 2 weeks ago, and he gives it 30 points. Right. You're thinking he might have a nice, favorable end of the season.
I do. It's important to understand that Mark Ingram, ever since he got benched from Week 9 on, actually leads the NFL in yards per carry. He's averaging 7.7 yards a carry. That's almost a first down every time he touches the ball. Granted, two of those matchups were not just
49ers.
Right, exactly. Two of those matchups were kind of cupcake teams, but still, Mark Ingram has looked like a different player since he got benched. He's running with a lot more motivation, and also the Saints do have a favorable schedule, like you just mentioned. Atlanta and then Tampa Bay twice. Tampa Bay has not really been good against the run. So Mark Ingram could be a guy who could really help a lot of teams win.
And Tampa has won 4 in a row, but he's right. Against the run, they've been able to put up some points. Is there another running back out there that you see, hey, if you have him on your team, you definitely want to start him?
Jordan Howard, he's been hot. Obviously, he's coming off his best game of the season against the 49ers, but he actually continues the soft schedule. He gets to play the Green Bay Packers, he gets to play the Detroit Lions, and he also gets to play the Washington Redskins. None of those teams have been very good against the run lately. So Jordan Howard should continue kind of his late season success.
Any other player offensively that you think, hey, man, this guy's got some nice matchups?
Sure. Mike Evans for Tampa Bay. He gets the Saints twice. He gets the Dallas Cowboys, and he gets the Carolina Panthers. They're one flaw on defense.
Well, you're going to start him anyway, probably.
Right, of course. Well, that goes also to Jameis Winston, of course, and maybe even Doug Martin. So great matchups for them. The Seattle Seahawks team, just Thomas Rawls, Russell Wilson, all of them.
Put them in. That's it. I'm in, Coach.
Really, exactly. And, yeah, there you go. They have matchups with the Rams, who have kind of just, first season in Los Angeles, kind of just, Jeff Fisher, whatever. They have the San Francisco 49ers on their schedule, and they also have a kind of offensive shootout with a struggling Green Bay defense starting this week if your playoffs start this week.
Jimmy Graham has looked a little bit like the old Jimmy Graham.
Doug Baldwin,
and Thomas Rawls blew up.
Right.
All right. With the good comes the bad. Some teams have some really tough matchups. And I think you have told me off screen there's 2 guys that are among the league leaders in rushing that you say, hey, man, not so fast, my friend. You might want to look elsewhere.
Right. And this is not just advice to bench them per se, but this is more just kind of lower your expectations. Maybe if you have another great guy on your bench, start him over. But Jay Ajayi for the Miami Dolphins.
Who came out of nowhere, by the way.
Right. One of the hottest free agent pickups this year, a league winner is what I like to call him. And LeGarrette Blount. Both of those guys, LeGarrette Blount, his next 2 games are actually against Baltimore, who's the #1 run defense, and Denver Broncos, Super Bowl champs, have a great defensive line. He also gets to play the Jets, who were not good last night, but they have a very good run defense. And Jay Ajayi also has a tough schedule. He opens the fantasy playoffs if you start this week with the Arizona Cardinals, and he also plays the Jets and the Buffalo Bills. Ever since they got Marcel Darius back from injury, I think they've averaged 3.7 yards a carry, which is lowest in the league. So those are just 2 names, not saying to bench them, but 2 names to kind of lower your expectations for the fantasy play.
Well, it's funny because LeGarrette Blount, I'm always in a quandary because I like PPR leagues. He doesn't catch, that's pass per reception if you don't know. He doesn't catch the ball much. So I'm always You know, when I don't start him, I'm like, please don't have a great game because he gets touchdowns, which really matter the most.
You never know when one of Brady's receivers are going to fall down at the 3-yard line and Blunt's going to punch it in. That makes him kind of matchup proof in a sense, but we'll see.
Any other bad matchups that you can think of off the top of your head?
Sure. The Colts passing game, who looked great last night, obviously, against the Jets team that kind of looked like they'd given up.
The Indianapolis Colts?
Right.
Yeah, they were great last night. You're saying that be wary going forward?
Well, I'm saying that they have play at Minnesota, which is a tough game with Mike Zimmer coming back. They play at Oakland. Obviously, Oakland's defense is looking pretty good lately, and they've come along after starting the season slowly. And they also have a game with a division rival this week, a very defensive team, the Houston Texans. So those are 3 matchups in a row that are not great offensive matchups for the Indianapolis Colts. And another guy who I loved before the season, he was my #1 quarterback, despite what the experts were saying about Cam Newton. I had Rodgers first and Drew Brees second. That's exactly how it is.
That's exactly what I had, 1-2.
Yeah, that's exactly how it is.
Those are my 2 guys.
And it's been great, but unfortunately, Aaron Rodgers he's played a lot of the easy chunk of his season. He has tough matchups going forward too as well. He also has to get the Vikings again, for example. And he starts this week. If you start your playoffs this week, he opens with the Seattle Seahawks. So
well, I'm going to say you're speaking of Cam. Listen, Cam had an incredible year last year.
He did.
We all know how hard it is to stay on top, and it wasn't any prediction on him. It was on the Panthers.
Right.
They were 15-1. I said, listen, if they go 9-7, I'll be shocked.
Right.
And I didn't think they would go 4-8 right now where they are.
Nobody thought that.
I thought 9-7, 8-8 was where they were going to be.
Exactly, and as did I. I actually had them going 9-7. I had them winning the NFC South though at 9-7. But Cam Newton, they were bound for health regression. They were one of the healthiest teams in the league last year, and their schedule is obviously much more difficult playing both West.
I have a feeling they'll have a bounce back year next year.
I agree.
You get the wake up call.
I agree.
And he might wear a tie to his team bus to the thing, so he doesn't have to sit out the first series. Let's move forward. Sleepers. People want to know. Is there anybody out there, especially if you're in a smaller league, you might be able to pick somebody up that could help you that might not be picked up, or even if you have him as a guy you're always trying to figure out if you're going to start him or not. Right. You got any of those kind of guys that you say, hey, put them in the lineup. I like what they got coming.
Well, if you're talking about free agency, I think Malcolm Mitchell is a guy who's kind of gotten hot.
New England Patriots.
New England
Patriots.
Got Tom Brady
from
UGA. I was actually a huge fan of him coming out for the Saints until we drafted Michael Thomas. Of course, I wanted the Saints to take him in the 4th round. But I've always been a fan of Malcolm Mitchell. Now that Gronk is out for the season, and Martellus Bennett is kind of ailing with his own injuries, as is Julian Edelman. The Patriots are using a lot more 3 wide receiver sets as opposed to their 2 tight end. Exactly. So you're seeing Malcolm Mitchell have a full snap count. He has had at least 80 yards and at least a touchdown in his last 3 games. He's starting to become one of Brady's go-to guys.
All right, I will never start him or play him for one reason. I've been doing a college SEC, ACC league for 25 years. I picked him, and I labored over this choice 4 years ago, Malcolm Mitchell or Mike Evans. Malcolm Mitchell, Mike Evans. Mike Evans has the best season of almost anybody ever in college with Johnny Manziel. And guess what Malcolm Mitchell does? He scores on his first possession, and then he jumps in the air to do the chest bump, and he tears his ACL after the year. And I finished with the same record as the guy who won, and I lost the tiebreaker.
Right. So that ACL was one of the reasons he actually fell in the draft, but he was a good pickup for the Patriots.
Forget him. Moving forward, anybody else that out there, any receivers, anybody else that you think, hey, put him in the lineup?
Maybe not in free agency, like you said, but Terrell Pryor is a guy I'm interested in going forward because he's playing for a.
It's like a young Dave Chappelle right there.
Right.
My producer doesn't believe it, but I think so.
He's actually playing for a contract because the Browns have kind of expressed openly, strangely, that they're not really interested in signing Terrell Pryor. He's hitting free agency, and he's had his breakout year, still learning the position. He's also RG3's coming back this week, and if you remember the preseason,
yes, he went off right.
Stud in preseason with Terrell Pryor, and Travis Kelce's the last guy.
The reality star that's the 50-day Travis Kelce guy.
Right, that guy. Despite his reality TV show, he's actually going under the radar. Yes, that guy going under the radar. He has had 3 straight games of 100 receiving yards. Actually, he has 350 receiving yards in his last 3 games. In all of those games, at least 8 catches. Part of it's to do with Jeremy Maclin being out. The other part of it is that, Travis Kelce's a really good football player. And think about the injuries at the tight end position. Scott. Gronk being out, Jordan Reed being out. Travis Kelce's a guy who's going to be very valuable going forward.
All right, LSU, Louisville. LSU's got Leonard Fournette. He just announced he was going to go pro. We all knew that.
Right.
But LSU's got a matchup, man. They're going to the Citrus Bowl, and they're playing Louisville. Right. This quarterback has been impossible to contain by nearly everyone. Does LSU have a chance to do it? They've had good success against guys like Manziel in the past with these read-run kind of guys, but read and react. Look at this guy's athleticism. What are they going to do with this?
I know, and he's almost a guaranteed Heisman winner, in my opinion at least. And it actually, the Leonard Fournette loss actually kind of sets up Geis to be a Heisman candidate next year, in my opinion. I think he's going to be really a great season. But using Geis, using Fournette, it seems like Louisville LSU is going to be a very offensive game, and it's going to be difficult for us to stop.
It's going to be fun to watch. How about that?
It is, but it's also going to be difficult for Louisville to stop us.
I got to talk to you before, because time is starting to run out, about the championship picture. Can anybody beat this monolith called Alabama? I mean, Clemson almost did it in the championship game last year. They're in as the 2 seed. They're going to play Ohio State, and obviously it's going to be Alabama, Washington. But I'm not sure who's going to win the Clemson game. I think Alabama will beat Washington. But if it's Alabama, Clemson, Alabama, Ohio State, who's got the better shot?
Gosh, I mean, that's a tough one. I think one of the reasons that makes Alabama so dominant, other than Nick Saban, is that in the playoffs you actually give him a month to prepare, and you know how incredibly of an advantage that can be.
It's so unbelievable what this guy's about.
Exactly, in a month of time. I'm sure he's going to prepare for Washington and the other teams. He's probably looking them up on film. Alabama's obviously the favorite. If I had to pick one to win, I'd probably pick Ohio State, just because I trust Urban Meyer a little more.
Good point. Urban Meyer's he's shown what he can do.
He's phenomenal.
But are you looking forward to this playoff?
I am looking forward to the playoff, and I think the committee had such a tough decision, to leave out a team like Penn State, and honestly, one of the things that I think that could really help the committee, other than maybe going to 8 teams, but that's a different topic. But the question is really, does the committee pick the best 4 teams, or do they pick the best 4 resumes?
Yeah,
and that's something that really isn't established.
It's tough.
And if you're picking the best 4 teams, I kind of agree with their decision. But if you're picking the rest of the resumes,
I agree with what they did. We got to roll now, but I do. But they're gonna. This is going to lead them to 6, and then 8, and then take the 5 champions and 3 at large. Hey, we're going to get you working out, Orange Theory Fitness. You're going to love that place.
All right,
get on it. That's a freebie. And then this wine bistro on Maple Street. You're going to love it.
That sounds
Check
great.
them out.
Thank you so much for having me on.
The shades. All right, my man, right there. Hey, we got a couple people on our team. The special Ks, I call them, Kelly and Kenny. Please get well. Everybody, you can hear my voice. Everybody's got a little something going on right now. Some of us are working a little sick in the booth and in the control room. I want to thank them for coming in wounded. My producer, Will Hill. Naila, jack of all trades. She does it all. Come on. And then Jay Smooth, Josh Smith. And don't forget the people that make it all happen here besides the production crew, Jim Dotson and Ron Yeager. I want to thank them and everybody in the WLAE family. It's been a great time here today. You saw Erik Harris, the current Saint. You saw Big Sam from Big Sam's Funky Nation, and Nick Guarisco. He went right down the information highway, giving you all the fantasy stuff you want. Next week, we're loading it up again. We'll be back. Stay tuned for next week on Primetime Sports.